my PCT epilogue video I posted back in July, I talked about my future hiking plans. I was excited to hike the Blue Lake Fire Closure near the Canadian border to complete my footpath from Mexico to Canada. Days before Dawson and I were supposed to leave for the hike, the same section closed again because of this year's Pioneer Fire. So last minute, Julie and I planned a consolation trip to Oregon and Washington. I met Julie in Bend, and we started our little vacation. First stop was where the PCT crossed Mount Hood Highway at mile 2094. I got some trail magic there the year before. That day on the trail was special. I stayed at Timberline Lodge. At the lodge, I called Riley to wish him a happy birthday, and in the bar that night, I got my trail name. With all that going on, I guess it's no surprise that I walked right past a geocache that I DNF'd in 2022. At the stop, Julie and I hiked half a mile of the PCT to avenge the DNF. After that quick stop, we headed to Mount Rainier. Since the trip was last minute, we didn't have reservations for the park, so our entries had to be timed to be after or before the park's required reservation times. We visited the information center first and then headed into the park proper after 3 p.m. so we wouldn't be turned around at the entry kiosk. On our way up to Paradise, we saw a marmot on the side of the road. After finding parking, which wasn't easy, we hiked in this Nisqually and Vista Trail. On the way to our hotel, we stopped by Box Canyon on the Wonderland Trail.
Oh, and then go down.
After we checked in at the Crest Trail Lodge, we went down to get some food right there in Packwood. We had grand plans of eating at the Packwood Brewery Company, just like we did the year before when I zeroed at White's Pass. Unfortunately, they had stopped serving food, so we meandered down to Nacho's Mexican restaurant instead. The next morning we had to get up early to get through the entry kiosk before 7 a.m. On the way back to Paradise, we stopped at Reflection Lake, which was amazing in the still morning air. Parking was a lot easier at Paradise the second time. Our original plan was to take a simple 1-mile hike to Myrtle Falls, but we kept adding to the hike. In the end, we made it a loop. We walked past the falls and continued on Golden Gate Trail. We jumped into Skyline Trail to get to Panorama Point. After the point, we continued to follow Skyline to get back down to Paradise. I ran into a friendly marmot.
Do you think we're going to feed you?
There's Princess's new friend.
Yeah?
You think that's the same one?
I doubt it. It seems like a long walk.
No, we have nothing for you.
How you doing?
I tried to make a snow angel in some snowpack we passed, and the views were amazing.
The wisp cloud.
Near Panorama Point is an amazing restroom. Can you imagine the Park Service building anything like it today? Julie even crossed a snowy traverse. That's pretty impressive until you realize that Mount Rainier's peak still towered above us at 14,000 feet. Back at Paradise, we had some time to kill. You see, we wanted to visit the other side of the mountain at sunrise. That's sunrise is the name of the place, not the time of day. But that meant exiting and re-entering the park. We couldn't get through the other kiosk until 3 p.m. So we had a little picnic upstairs in the Paradise Inn, completed 2 Adventure Lab geocaches in the Paradise area. The drive over to Sunrise was nice. We parked at a historic gas station in Sunrise. We did the Sourdough Ridge Loop Trail there at Sunrise, mostly to see the wildflowers. Sourdough, sourdough, up the hills we go. We left around dusk. We had reservations at Yakima, which meant crossing the PCT again at Chinook Pass. I got a little trail magic, a brownie, here a year earlier from a passing hiker named Uncle Jim. We got out of the car to walk to the crossing because the bridge is so cool. The next morning we drove to Union Creek to relax for the rest of our vacation. Here's some proof of us relaxing. On our second day at Union Creek, we visited Crater Lake and thus continued our PCT reunion tour. We checked out Crater Lake Lodge for the first time. It's really impressive. Back at Union Creek, I did a little fishing, so I had trout for dinner. A while back, I finally mounted a solar panel a coworker gave me. at Union Creek, we used it for the first time. I'm pretty proud of the power station thingy that I made. Take that, Jackery. The morning of the last day at Union Creek, I was feeling grungy, so a quick dip in the Union Creek was in order. It was a really quick dip. The last and mandatory activity was to walk the Rogue River Gorge Trail before heading home. Well, one of the points of a now canceled hike with Dawson was to get me in shape for my October treks in Nepal. Although Dawson was going back to school, Riley was just starting summer vacation after doing a summer session. His shoulder was healed up after the corrective surgery, so I asked him if he wanted to go on a backpacking trip. I skipped 25 miles of the PCT last year in the Sierras because of a bridge outage. The official PCTA approved alternative was 11-mile hike to Bishop and then a 17 miles back to the trail. That meant I missed Muir Pass and Evolution Valley. I asked Riley if he wanted to go with me, and he said yes. The full hike would be 53 miles. We'd have to repeat the 11 and the 7, and of course do the 25. We set aside 5 days to do it, but hoped to get it done in 4. We were expecting some weather on day 2, but not bad, and then some even milder weather on day 4. We got to the trailhead late at night, slept in the car, and got going early the next day. Right away, Riley was crushing the miles. I couldn't keep up with him. South Lake was beautiful, and then followed by Long Lake. Things were getting very alpine near Saddle Rock Lake and Bishop Lake. The elevation was really getting to me. I got a headache, and I felt a little nauseated. It even seemed to slow Riley down a bit. We stopped at the summit so Riley could appreciate his first High Sierra pass. We counted ourselves lucky. This was the easy way to the trail. We only had to go up 2,000 feet, and then we dropped 3,000 feet to the trail. It was 12:30 and a good time for lunch, so once we got a little down from the summit, Riley cooked up a Mountain House biscuits and gravy, while I choked down about half of my lunchtime snack that I'd planned. By the end, I was gagging with every bite. While we were having lunch, a guy said hello. He was a fellow retired scoutmaster, and he had a son like Riley and Dawson who had also earned their eagle. He said he was calling an end to his John Muir Trail adventure because the weather was turning bad. He showed me his phone and a weather report he'd recently got on his InReach. I didn't think much of it. I knew we'd get a little weather the next day, and his weather report seemed to say it was going to be even milder than I thought. What I didn't catch right then was that the weather on the 4th day was predicted to be much worse than I expected. 5 inches of precipitation, and that precipitation was going to be snow. Foolishly, we headed the 6.3 miles and 3,000 feet down to the campsite near the middle fork of the Kings River. On the way down, we saw a little snake, some grouse, and a little waterfall. Of course, the views were great, but I was having trouble enjoying it. I was lacking energy and unable to eat anything to get any energy back. Riley had slowed down. He said his legs were killing him with all the stepping down. We got to camp at 4:30. We set up the tent, and we would have crawled in immediately, but a couple that were hiking came by to say hello. They wanted to know how the hike in was. There's a backcountry ranger station right there at the trail junction, and the ranger was encouraging everybody to leave the trail we had just hiked in on. The ranger said that the trail was tough and would take 2 days to get out on. So according to the ranger, if the couple was going to avoid the bad weather, they'd have to leave in the morning. We thought they could get back to the road in 1 day, but it would be a tough day. After the couple left, we both slept on and off until dark. We got up to cook Riley's dinner. I was still gagging, just helping Riley prepare his food. I decided at this point I was no longer suffering from altitude sickness. After all, I was at 9,000 feet. The headache was gone. I think I was just overly exhausted. I managed to eat the rest of my peanut M&Ms in the trail bar from lunch. I didn't sleep well. Sometime after the PCT, my mattress sprung a leak, so I was sleeping directly on the hard ground. I was up at 7 getting water. I managed to choke down a packet of ramen I boiled up. Riley said he slept poorly too. He said the afternoon lap the day before was too long and prevented him to sleep overnight. I couldn't get him out of his sleeping bag until 8:30 though. He didn't want breakfast. He said his stomach hadn't woken up yet. But we had to have a long heart-to-heart. We had to decide what to do. We could hike up to Muir Pass and back. That would be a 15-mile day, but we'd only have to carry water and lunch. We'd probably get a little weather on Muir Pass, but that wouldn't be too bad. The real problem would be when we'd have to hike out the day after, we'd be extra tired. And we, of course, had to do it in one day. We couldn't do two because of the snowfall on the fourth day. Either way, it was clear that we couldn't stick to the original plan. It just wasn't a good idea. In the end, we decided to just go back the way we came that morning, so we'd have the option of taking 2 days if we needed it. Before heading out that morning, we walked down the John Muir Trail. The sign marks the spot where the Bishop Trail meets the PCT. So I wouldn't be getting any of the missed PCT mileage, but it was better to be safe. We started the trudge back up the hill. The whole way back up, I was kicking myself. My pack was so heavy with 5 days worth of food. At least 2,000 calories per day, and I couldn't eat any of it to lighten my load. If we'd just listened to the Scoutmaster the day before, we'd have a casual stroll back to the car this day. Near the top of the pass, we came to the previously broken bridge. The year before, it was snapped in the middle. We met the CCC crew that had just repaired it. We got to the pass at 3 p.m. Just as we reached the pass, it started snowing, ever so slightly. It continued all the way to the car. We stopped at a great rock ledge overlooking the valley below. Riley had lunch. I think he said he ate a dry packet of ramen. I had some of my M&Ms. Riley was really motivated to get back to the car, even though he was going slow. Despite being overcast, everything was beautiful. We ran into a rambunctious couple of dogs above South Lake, and then into their owner a little while later. To give you an idea of the level of snowfall, this is the snow that collected in my hat that I clipped to my pack. We got to the car just past 6, and we started the long drive home. So that was my consolation prize backpacking trip. That trip was supposed to make me feel prepared for the upcoming Nepal treks. As you can imagine, I'm a little nervous. Speaking of Nepal trip, really soon you should start seeing daily shorts from Nepal appearing on this channel. Char da mik o na. Google says that's how you say see you soon in Nepali.